Right. So the deal on this is you're dividing polynomials. That's actually what we've already been doing. But on these, it's not always the case that you have no remainder. Like there won't always be stuff that cancels, and then so it's very similar to what we've been doing, except instead of factoring, we're going to do good old long division, which works just the way it did back in elementary school. We're first going to start with dividing by a monomial, which does not require difficult division. It looks like this. So if you go ahead and write it down, 9x cubed, go ahead and do this, divided by 3x squared minus 6x squared divided by 3x squared plus 15x divided by 3x squared. We've done this before. Okay, we did this in skill 14. Move back now and stay there. So what's going to happen here? Okay, well, I'm tired of it. This is like babysitting, not teaching math. We need to be mature enough that we can stay in our seats. My juniors, last period, they sat in their seats the whole time. They do that every class period, believe it or not. Okay. So it should not be an issue. We stay in our seats, so we're not talking to our friends while you're supposed to be taking down. So the only difference between what we're doing now and what we did on skill 14, when you took out the GCF and divided each term, is that this term that you're dividing will not go evenly in each of them. You could end up with fractions. 9x cubed divided by 3x squared comes out nicely. It ends up being just, what? 3x. Yes, there's one more x on the top. And then 6x squared divided by 3x squared is 2. And then this is the one that does not come out evenly. 15 over 3 is fine. That's 5. Let's erase that. We can move this over. That won't let me move it. All right, so we've got 2 here, and then plus 5. But where is the x located? It's underneath the 5 because there are more x's, precisely one more x on the bottom than on the top. So that's the only difference on these. So let me set you up on the first one, and then now you try, and you guys can do the other two, and we'll check in just a moment. But here's the setup. It's just 4x cubed over 2x squared plus 10x squared over 2x squared plus 3x over 2x squared. And I'd like you underneath it to write what's left over when you do each of those divisions. At this. Alright, we'll do it in a different color. Okay, what did you get for an answer? So x, okay, it'll be minus, yep, minus 3 over x, you see that minus sign there. And plus, okay. So there's the answer to the second one. Because the x cubed has one more x in the bottom than it does in the top. Does anybody want to share what they got for the third one? Split up here.
2c cubed.
Yep.
Plus 3c.
Yep.
Plus 9x6.
Okay, or reduced, it would be 3 over 2. That's it. Good. But do you get the idea of what we're doing there? So that's dividing a monomial into polynomial. It's actually not that hard. Okay. So now we're going to move into long division of a binomial into a polynomial. So this is a little more difficult. If you'll recall, you guys need it quiet here.
Long division, bro?
It is. It is. No. So if you'll recall from back in elementary school, we look at the 21. It does not go into 7. It does go into 73. 3 times.
And then that's, 60.
What do we do with the 3
And you minus
next?
it, it's 170.
Okay, well, you're going too fast.
So like,
You're right.
Are you
You're
sure
right.
that we're doing this?
You guys, it's not that well. When you first did this in elementary school, it was actually probably really hard, but you did a lot of it. Okay. Nathan. 3 times 21.
It's 63.
63. Then we subtract. 73 minus 63 is 10. Bring down the 7. 21 goes into 107 5 times. Then what do we do with the 5? Yeah, we're actually just going to do R.
Multiply it by 21.
5 times 21 is 105. Subtract, you get a remainder of 2. So you just maybe did R2 back in the day. And then you might have talked about how to change it to a decimal or whatever, how to write it as a fraction. So, believe it or not, guys, believe it or not, long division, even without in algebra with binomials and polynomials, it works the same way. Okay, you don't have to believe it. Believe it or not, it works the same. Here's what it looks like. So we write down x plus 3, and we're going to divide it into 3x squared minus 4x plus 13. It's a thing. You can do this. It's not that bad. Really not that bad.
What do you mean?
So here's what you do. You take the x. Okay, just the x. And you're going to divide it just into 3x squared. Just like we've been doing. 3x squared divided by x is what? Now you're dividing it. What's 3x squared divided by x?
2.
No, don't subtract. It's 3x.
Oh.
So you write the 3x right up here. That's the first step. That's the first step. Okay, next step. Okay, next step is just like what you did on the long division over here. You take 3x times x, which is 3x squared. Then you do 3x times 3 because of the distributive property, which is 9x. So this is where it differs. There's 2 terms rather than... What's that? Lost. Okay. So first thing I did is I did the first term into the first term. You get that part? To get the 3x. But then I have to distribute the 3x to each of these. When I multiply, see up here I multiplied the 3 times the 21, right? 3 times the 21 to get 63. Great with numbers. But here I'm multiplying 3x times x plus 3. It would literally look like this. And when I distribute that, I get 3x squared plus 9x. That's where I get the next term. Okay, so that's what's happening. Then, I lost you. So, okay. So I'm multiplying this 3x up here. Do you see how I got the 3x?
No.
Okay, so I got the 3x up here. Oops, still getting used to this. So the 3x I got up here, I got by doing 3x squared divided by x. And then I have to multiply the 3x by both the x and the 3 to get these 2 terms. So you distribute it, you get 3x squared plus 9x. So like in the 63's place, I have 3x squared plus 9x. What did we do with the 63 next here? Over here when we were doing it long division with numbers,
Yeah.
what did we do with the 73 and the 63? Subtracted it. So guess what I do over here?
You added.
And you subtract it. So let's get rid of this. So I am going to subtract. What's 3x squared minus 3x squared equal? And this will happen every single time. It's equal to 0. If you've done your division right, this will always cancel out first terms. Okay, always. But then the second term won't. So not necessarily. Negative 4x minus 9x. What's negative 4x minus 9x? Negative 13x. So now we're at this stage. We're at the 107 stage. Actually, we're at the 10 stage. Not the 107 yet. We're at the 10 stage. How did I get this 107 down there? What did I do? I brought it down. So guess what I do here? I add the 13. I bring it down. And we're almost done. Oh, just kidding. Okay. So bring down the 13. A little arrow if you want. And then I divided the 21 into the 107 here. So I'm going to divide the x into the negative 13x. It looks like this. Negative 13x divided by x. What does that equal? Negative 13. So I write the negative 13 up here. And then I'm going to take and distribute the negative 13. And so if I take negative 13 and distribute it to the x, I get negative 13x, which I told you would happen every time. And then the negative 13 times 3 is negative 39. And then I put parentheses around this and subtract. Well, it's 13 minus a negative 39, so we end up adding the 39. So 13 plus 39 gives us...
Oh, you gotta do that weird.
You have to distribute this minus sign. Negative, negative makes it adding, so it's 13 plus 39, or 52. So here's how we write the remainder in algebra. We just do plus or minus if it were negative. 52 over the x plus 3. And that's long division with polynomials. Yeah. So I would like you to try the one on the next page. Thankfully, all right, so you're going to take the 18x cubed, and then you're going to put in here a plus 0x squared. That's what we call the placeholder. And then write out the rest of it, minus 8x plus 2. So what I have in green there is what we call a placeholder. If you don't put that in, things will not line up vertically. You won't have like terms vertically. So, you know, remember what the first step is. What do you do first? Yeah. And what is it? 6x to the second. And if we've done it correctly, what should happen when I multiply 6x to the second by 3x? Yep. And then 6x squared minus times negative 1 is minus 6x squared. Put a line underneath it, parentheses around it, minus sign out front. Otherwise, it's a minus. So now we're going to subtract those two terms. The 18x cubes cancel out. 0x squared minus a negative 6x squared is positive 6x squared, because I'm subtracting a negative. I end up adding that 6x squared. Bring down the negative 8x. And then I do another division. 3x into 6x squared. So you're dividing this into this. And it goes 2x times. Then we take 2x and we distribute it to the 3x minus 1. And it gives us 6x squared minus 2x. Put parentheses around it, subtract it. Very carefully subtract it. Yeah, because of those negative signs in there. It's negative 8x minus a negative 2x, which means we add the 2x to the negative 8x. So it's negative 6x. Bring down the 2. We're almost done. Yeah. So 3x into negative 6x is negative 2. And then distribute the negative 2. So we get negative 6x plus 2, and then subtract. And conveniently on this one, there's also no remainder. That's kind of nice. There's a 0 remainder, so your final answer is this. So I'd like you to try the now you try. So our solution for this one is x squared minus 3x plus 5 minus 3 over x plus 3. And I'm just going to make one comment on this last one here, and then let you go ahead and get started on the practice problem. Grab a book. You're welcome. There's only 4 of them. It should be an easy 20 points. They get a little harder as you go, but well, not necessarily. There's only 4 of them. They get a little harder each time, but they're not too bad. I picked the ones that aren't too bad. All right. So on this one, just a note. If they're not in the correct order, you need to put them in the correct order. Oops. So you've got to put it in the correct order here. So do you see what I did? Just kind of moving the terms around, and then everything else is the same. So that's all we're going to do on this one, okay? You got to put them in the correct order. So maybe make a note, reordering terms first before you divide. Otherwise, when you go to multiply, they won't line up as like terms. Okay. So make sure you put them in order, standard form order, and then you would just go from there. So make sure you can write on your summary how much you hate long division. But a little hint, on the top right there are the objectives. You could pick one of those to decide if you understand that, or if you don't understand, I guess you can write that on there. That's it. So that is division of polynomials.